keep it talk Class 4A, District's second round here. Let's quarterfinals. This is a rematch, Wilson and Penn Manor. And I'll tell you what, Penn Manor lost the first time in a close game. Their game last week against Cedar Cliff, to come back like that against a very good Cedar Cliff team that was battle-tested, I think they got to be confidence sky high right now. What are your thoughts?
Well, yeah, certainly. I mean, rallying from a 28-7 deficit at halftime to win 35-34 is going to do loads for your confidence and, you know, whatever momentum you want to take from the game. And sure, I would imagine Penn Manor has been aching for another crack at Wilson based on how that first game went. Wilson won at 21-14, but Penn Manor was up 14-0 early in that one. Just seemed to be dominating the game early on. Frankly, they were, you know, pushing the Bulldogs all up and down the field, you know, scored two fairly fast and easy touchdowns, and it looked like, whoa, here comes Penn Manor. But Wilson, to its credit, you know, they got it to 7 points at halftime. They cut the lead to 7 at halftime, and then just shut out Penn Manor in the second half. Scored 14 points themselves and came away with the 21-14 victory. Quintessential Wilson football. They just seem to find ways to win games like this. And, you know, the other note I'll have is that Wilson has, at least in recent years, fared pretty well when they've seen a team again. You know, last year they beat Harrisburg in the district final after losing to Harrisburg, you know, in the non-league portion of the schedule. This year they knocked off Manhunt Township last week. You know, they won the first meeting 17-0. Actually struggled a little bit offensively with Township's defense. They had no such problems this week.
Yeah, 44-6.
Yeah, and playing with a backup quarterback, no less. So, you know, Matt Timochenko, the starting QB, I haven't heard with 100% certainty that he's going to be back this week, but I know he was expecting to be. Even if they don't have him, their backup, Jake Templin, he's not asked to do as much as Timochenko does with the offense, but he seems to be running the show pretty well there. So, yeah, it should be a really interesting matchup, I think. I read a quote from Coach Doug Doms of Wilson on the computer this morning, actually, where he says, you know, lots of people are kind of expecting Penn Manor to win this game. So they feel like they have to, Wilson has to come out and prove something to, you know, to the doubters there that, hey, we won that first one. That was a legit win. You know, what's all this Penn Manor stuff about?
Oh, he's trying to make himself into the underdog. He's 11-0.
Right. You know, but that's the way it is. You got to motivate these kids somehow.
Wilson scored 44 points last week. Penn Manor puts up 35, but gives up 34. Do you expect a high-scoring game here? What should we expect as far as the action goes?
I don't think we're going to see the kind of pyrotechnics that Wilson put up, you know, against Township last week or the Penn Manor game. For one thing, while Matt Timochenko is a very good quarterback, he's not Andrew Ford from Cedar Cliff. You know that Ford's a Virginia Tech recruit. What I heard I wasn't at that game. From what I heard, Penn Manor kind of backed off in the first half and let him. They didn't really try to get a whole lot of pressure on him. They were worried more about dropping guys into coverage, and he just picked them apart. In the second half, they brought it, and they got after him, and, you know, the results spoke for themselves. They had 1 touchdown and 4 first downs in the second half. So, you know, I think Penn Manor clamped down on them. These are two of the better defensive teams in the Lancaster-Lebanon League. Yeah, the first game, 21-14. I'm thinking it'll probably be more in that neighborhood this time around.
Okay. At the beginning of the year, you picked, Penn Manor to win the section. They're playing again. Who you taking?
I got to get off the Penn Manor band.
Oh, you're right.
You know, I think it's going to be a very good game. I've just learned my lesson this year about picking against Wilson. They're not always flashy. They just seem to find ways to win games like this and get the job done. I think it's going to be a very good game, very competitive, very tight. But in the end, I think Wilson finds somehow, some way to pull it out here.
Just win, baby, huh?
Yep.
The Bulldogs go. Okay, we got one more in this classification. This is one of the hottest teams, I think, right now in the 4A, and that's Hempfield.
Yeah, they come into this one as a 10 seed going against number 2 Cumberland Valley. Cumberland Valley is 9-2. Hempfield is 8-3.
Right.
Hempfield's won 5 in a row though, and they are, as you point out, they are playing their best football right now. They are red hot. They knocked off Central Dauphin 17-7 last week. Somebody in the room picked that game as an upset. I forget who. But yeah, you know, they've really been coming on. They've always had a good running game with Devin Washington. Now they got a sophomore, Will Blair, who has really exploded in the last couple of weeks. You know, he had 167 yards and 2 scores last week.
Right.
You know, during Hempfield's current winning streak, he's rushed for 488 of his 636 yards and scored 6 of his 8 touchdowns. So
Interesting.
they've kind of evolved into like a 1-2 punch in the backfield now, which I think only helps at this level. Cumberland Valley is like the Mid-Penn's Manheim Central in terms of quad A. You know, they have 24 playoff appearances now. That's second only to Central. They have a 38-11 record in the playoffs, 12 District 3 titles. All those are second only to the Barons in terms of success. They had a tough game last week. They knocked off Harrisburg 27-23, but you know, Harrisburg came into that with a 5-5 record, and you know, they got hammered by Cumberland Valley the first time they played, but they were leading late. Cumberland Valley only got the decisive touchdown with 4:59 left, so they kind of got their wake-up call too.
Yeah.
So it'll be interesting to see, you know, how these two teams react and how they match up in this one.
Who you like?
I'm taking Hempfield.
Stick with it.
I'm going with the upset pick here. You know, I just the key is going to be how Hempfield does against Cumberland Valley's wing T offense. You know, all Cumberland Valley wants to do is run the ball. They do it very well. They have 2 very good running backs. The best one is Tyler Updegraff, who's got 1,300 yards, 8 touchdowns. Their fullback has 23 touchdowns, 633 yards. That's Tyler Heisey. So, you know, good 1-2 punch there. If Hempfield, they don't even have to stop it. They just got to kind of slow it down and get off the field enough that they can get their offense going. Interesting, they have 2 common opponents. They both played Central Dauphin. Cumberland Valley lost to Central Dauphin 35-21 in Week 8. You know, obviously Hempfield won last week. They both played Central York early in the season. Cumberland Valley won their matchup 21-7, and Hempfield won 28-21. So, you know, fairly comparative scores here. I certainly think it'll be a good matchup. I don't think it's going to be a blowout either way. I'm looking for a very competitive game, but I just think Hempfield's peaking right now, and I look for that momentum to carry over.
It's amazing how far Hempfield's come in 1 year. Look at what they were like last year, and now they're, I would say, like you're saying, the hottest team, and you're going to ride them out as long as you can.
Yeah, I'm going to stay on the train one more week at least, and you know, see what happens after that. But yeah, I like the way their offense looks. Their defense, it's solid, and it's improving lately. I mean, they're coming off their best defensive performance of the year against Central Dauphin. So if they can put that together for another week, yeah, I think they can pull it off.
Check out next week's show to see just how smart he really is.